to safer for the United States to be the complete sole dominant power everywhere?
Well, number one, right now, militarily, we are. There's no doubt about it. But why it's so dangerous is because other countries aren't going to stand for it. Presently, we have what's called a unipolar world. One country, us, both economically and militarily, controlling the planet. And other countries aren't going to like that. They don't like it. Russia, China, and other countries as well. And so already they're starting to react. Russia and China are increasing their spending on military space applications in order that they cannot allow the U.S. to control the planet, because all warfare on the planet today is controlled by military satellites, by U.S. Military space technology. When Bush launched the shock and awe attack in Iraq in 2003, in the initial attack, 70% of the weapons that were used were directed to their targets by military satellites. So we, in the global network, we call military satellites the triggers for war, because without them, the United States can't do anything anymore.
Well, why is Syria going on forever? What's really going on there? Why, if we have so much power and we can dominate everything from space and everything else is, I mean, they essentially have nothing compared to us. Why are we struggling? Why is this lasting forever? And why, I mean, what's really going on?
Well, the bottom line is the reason why Syria is still, the reason why Assad hasn't been toppled. We're talking about the United States, Saudi Arabia, Turkey, Israel. They want to topple Assad. Saudi Arabia and Turkey have been funding and directing ISIS with the help of the United States for years. It's now very well proven that this is so. And so the U.S., the U.S. has been supposedly bombing ISIS for years, right? But nothing ever happened, right? They just got stronger and stronger. And now Russia goes into Syria because they're long allies with Syria, and they want to...
And they have a base there, right?
They do have a base there. And they, all of a sudden, what has it been, maybe 6 months that Russia's been in there bombing now, and all of a sudden the Syrian forces now they're moving all the way up to Aleppo now. They're winning. And so just today, we're seeing Turkey and Saudi Arabia begging the United States to join them in a ground assault into Syria.
Why do we care about Syria? What is the big deal?
It's a big story. It's the biggest story of our time, the biggest story of our life right now.
Well, I know, but nobody talks about it except alternative media sites, and the regular media just they'll talk about ISIS and stuff, but nobody really gets to the why, the real why.
Did you ever see that YouTube video? If you just Google, former NATO commander, he ran for president.
Oh, I saw that. Where all the different countries we're gonna go attack.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, I saw that.
You know what I'm talking about, right?
Yeah.
What's his name? I can't think of his name offhand. But anyway, he said in that expose that we want to take out Iraq, we want to take out Libya, Afghanistan, and then he mentioned Syria. Iran. He mentioned Iran.
And I remember him saying, well, why? And the guy goes, I don't know.
That's where he let us down, because he did know. And
that's what I want to know. What is it?
I'm going to tell you. It might sound heavy to you, but hold on for the ride. Give me a little bit of time so I can tell the whole story. I watched a YouTube video last year of George Friedman, who's the CEO of Stratfor, 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 which is the sort of the privatized CIA. A lot of corporations go to Stratfor for intelligence information. So George Friedman's the founder and CEO of Stratfor. He was making a speech in Chicago, and he lays out the need to have regime change in Moscow and Beijing. Okay. Now, why, God knows why, would the United States want to try to take down Beijing. Can you imagine? I mean, you're talking World War III, right?
That's a big thing.
All right, why would you do that? I mean, it's crazy. But don't we know by now, this is just my opinion, educated opinion, I think, don't we know by now that the number one job of the Pentagon is to serve as the primary resource extraction service for corporate interests, for corporate globalization? And so we see Libya recently taken out, that has the largest supply of oil on the African continent.
They also didn't have a World Bank there as well, which maybe that could be it, because that's the first thing they did.
They had a state-run bank. You're exactly right. And then beyond that, we've, Iraq, and, you go through all these places, and as the old saying was during George Herbert Walker Bush's presidency, we wouldn't be bombing Iraq if their biggest export product was broccoli, Okay, so what does Russia have that we would want, right? Besides being a huge country, they happen to have the world's largest supply of natural gas, and they also have, of course, significant supplies of oil. But there's something even more, even bigger. Look at a map and look at the Arctic Ocean. And as the Arctic melts because of climate change, and now you can get in there and drill into the Arctic, which country on the planet has the largest land border with the Arctic Ocean? And so basically what Stratfor and people in other places are saying is we've got to balkanize Russia, break it up into constituent pieces so that the oil corporations would have an easier chance to have access and to control the whole Arctic drilling operation. It's massive, massive amount of, money to be made there. That's one reason I believe that the oil industry is working so hard to fund the climate change deniers to keep that whole movement going, because they really don't want to deal with this climate change thing, because it's big profits to be made at the end of the line.
Well, there's profit on both sides of the climate change issue. You know what I mean? You can argue. I'm just saying that to keep that debate going regardless is a good thing from a commercial standpoint.
Well, but anyway.
I know that's a disappointing commentary. I know that, but
I got another piece to it.
I want to hear more.
It's BRICS. You probably know about BRICS.
Yep.
BRICS.
But maybe our listeners
But a lot of people don't know about BRICS. BRICS stands for Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa. They have said, we don't like the IMF and the World Bank. They exploit countries. They force you to privatize your resources. They force you into austerity budgets in order to pay back loans. They exploit you. They hurt your national economy, and they hurt your people. And they essentially destabilize your national sovereignty. And so we're going to create our own development bank to rival the IMF and the World Bank. We're not going to exploit people the way they do. And they've created BRICS. And so they put in hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars into the beginning development account. Now, a lot of other countries are wanting to join BRICS, and they want to be a part of it. And this is scaring the living hell out of the Western capitalist countries who have had, for a long time, control of the global economy. And they're not happy about this.
Well, I had Irvin Goldman, who used to be responsible for strategy for J.P. Morgan, on, and I asked him this, and he said that he sees it as a 3-tier competition going on for control of global finance. You have the China, Russia, the BRIC country thing, and then you have the European Union, and then you have the United States. He thinks it's like a 3-tier competition. Is that what you see?
I see the European Union as being subservient to the U.S.
So you see it as more of a 2-tier, a two-pronged deal.
Yeah. And so what BRICS is calling for is a multipolar world. No one country is in control of the planet. No one country is militarily in control of the planet. No one country, always meaning the U.S., of course. No one country is in charge of the global economy. That it's shared amongst all the people, all the countries, a multipolar world, and which will be a more peaceful world because we won't be cutting each other's throats so much. That's the dream they're trying to lead us towards. And now recently you've begun to see that Russia and China are announcing that they're going to trade oil using their native currencies rather than using the petrodollar. And of course, this is really freaking the United States out. And so this is coming back to your question of Syria. Syria is a linchpin as far as Russia is concerned. And I've been studying on this for 2 years straight, so I really can get a handle on it. Russia says that if Syria falls, then the next step they're going to take out Iran. And then after that, it's easy for them to take out Russia. And so Russia feels like it has to defend themselves in Syria. And what the United States and the NATO are doing is that, and it's, again, clear in my mind, I'm absolutely convinced now that the U.S. is involved with Saudi Arabia and Turkey in funding and directing ISIS. And that the U.S. has been sending these kind of Islamic fundamentalist forces into countries. We recently have seen that the United States has been sending these Islamicists into Ukraine to fight against the people in the Donbass in the eastern Ukraine, that are Russian-speaking citizens that are being attacked by the neo-Nazis out of Kiev that were essentially handed the country after the U.S. facilitated, special emphasis on the word facilitated, coup d'etat there in Ukraine. The goal of the United States is to create chaos on the Russian border as a way to begin to break it up. And so they want to send in these Islamicist fighters into Chechnya and to other countries along the Russian Federation, along their borders, in order to destabilize Russia, to force them to spend a lot of money, a lot of military. That further allows the Western media to demonize Putin, and blah, 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 on down the road to justify continued NATO expansion into Latvia, Lithuania, Estonia, Romania, Bulgaria, Poland. I mean, at the time of the fall of the former Soviet Union, Gorbachev, meeting with then U.S. Secretary of State Jim Baker, said, I'm worried about, if we pull back the Warsaw Pact, we shut down the Warsaw Pact, pull back, our militaries. I'm scared about NATO expansion up to our country. And he was promised NATO would not expand 1 centimeter. Well, guess what? That promise was broken by the United States repeatedly, every president since then. And the United States is now sitting right on the Russian border in many different countries with major NATO operations and just, provoking the hell out of Russia. Now just turn it the other way. Cuban Missile Crisis in reverse. What if Russia
we would go ballistic if this was happening in the other direction.
Thank you, in Canada and Mexico, right?
Oh, we would just be crazy. Now, but what I don't understand is why would we provoke China when we depend on China so much for so many things?
We're their biggest customer.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Even, all the rare earth materials and things, we are not that safe by isolating China and if we piss them off too much, we could be in trouble. I mean, they have so much control over specific elements of our economy that I don't understand why we aren't smarter on that.
Well, a lot of people, including my partner, ask me that question all the time. And I say to her repeatedly, you're thinking too rationally. You're thinking rationally because you're a rational, sensible person. The people running our country, what I call the corporate criminal syndicate, are basically irrational. They are greedy. They are crazy. They are warlike. I mean, don't we know that by now? And they roll the dice. They're like a gambler out of control in Las Vegas.